As I was looking over this situation where Steam is apparently delisting a bunch of video games on account of the fact that they are breaking the rules and standards set forth by the payment processing companies Visa and MasterCard, I was reminded that in the year 2012 and 2013, EA was voted the worst company in America, which was always interesting to me because it made me wonder, are people not aware of banks? Because banks, to me, are kind of like some of the worst scum of the world, coupled together by politicians. But to be quite honest, those two are kind of like tied at the hip, right? Because the banks, they own the politicians, therefore they pay the politicians to, enforce all of their lobbying stuff and all the things that they want to get done so that they can make even more money and extract even more money from the populace. So therefore, both of those are just kind of like absolute scum, and people are over here like concerned voting uh, this company that, they're also scumbags. EA is also chock full of scumbags, right? But really, are they really as bad as like banking entities and politicians in general? I would beg to differ, but that's neither here nor there, right? So let's talk about this situation over on Steam, which is absolutely redonkulous. But Steam rules have been updated to prohibit content that violates rules set forth by payment processors and banks. The specific rule that is being mentioned here is Rule 15, and they say what you shouldn't publish on Steam is content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks, or internet network providers, in particular, certain kinds of adult owned content. Now, Valve has confirmed, this is in a PC Gamer article here, Valve has confirmed that they were recently notified that certain games on Steam may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors and their related card networks and banks, said Valve. As a result, we are retiring those games from being sold on the Steam store. Now, I have a bit of a problem with this. Now, I don't remember exactly when this happened, but it was several years ago that Valve just kind of decided, like, hey, look, we're going to back off and we're just going to be a platform. So, whatever video games you guys want to publish on our platform, you can go and you can publish whatever the hell you want. That's none of our business. We're going to work on like some type of algorithm that just helps your games find like an audience of people that are interested in purchasing your games. And I've never been like super happy about the approach that a lot, not just Steam, but a lot of these other online stores take when it comes to content, because I see a lot of these online stores, at least I used to back in the day, as kind of like content curators. So they would actually be like, "Oh, we're going to put good games on here." So one of my waking moments, I kind of feel like, was really the Switch, because I was expecting the Switch to be a much more, curated experience, the Switch store, the eShop, and they just allowed all types of shovelware to exist on that shop for God knows how long. I mean, it's still there. That shop is still like chock full of shovelware. To give you guys an idea, there was one point at which some random publisher sent me like 10 game codes. And I go and I look at them because I was curious. And it was basically the same game with 10 different skins. I kid you not. It was literally the same game, same mechanics, just like 10 different skins. They were selling each of these at like $10 a pop on the Switch eShop. And it's not like a fun game. We're talking like basic Flash shit that has been done like freaking 30 years ago. Well, 30 years is an exaggeration, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like these really old game concepts that have been done by complete amateur people on Flash when they were like learning how to code, and they just like sell these for $10 on the Switch. And that's not even the worst. Like there's straight up sometimes stuff that doesn't even work. And a lot of these stores now have this type of shovelware. And I kind of wish that these platforms would kind of curate their content a little bit better. But, that's neither here nor there. Steam decided that they were going to go ahead and take a step back and not really enforce anything and just let any game onto their platform. And then they kind of like refined the algorithms and all of that. And so some of the games that apparently made their way, which the ones that were recently removed, were very much explicit games. You guys can see the list on here. All of these games were removed. And these were removed because of these payment processor companies kind of like putting the hurt on Steam. They were pressuring Steam to remove these video games. Now, it is important for people to understand that, like, whenever companies like Visa and MasterCard pressure you, this is a serious problem because and I don't know if PayPal was involved in this as well. They might, because usually a lot of these companies kind of like tend to see eye to eye. But what ends up happening is, like, if you lose access to the payment processing services of Visa and MasterCard and potentially PayPal and some of the more, mainstream payment processing services, like, I believe something that always comes up is Stripe, but I'm not super well versed into how all of these things work. But if you lose access to these services, Steam's just kind of like screwed. Like, there's not a whole lot that they can really do, because imagine this. You're like, oh yeah, I love Steam. Steam's the best. I don't want them censoring anything. Oh yeah, let's friggin' go. I can buy whatever game I want. And Steam's like, yeah, we're gonna stick it to them. And then Visa, MasterCard, PayPal all say, okay, we're gonna take our payment processing business and we're gonna strip that away from your platform. Now, all of a sudden, you want to go buy a game, and you're like, okay, let me go buy the latest DLC for whatever game you happen to be playing. And you go in there and you're like, oh, they don't accept credit card. Huh, that's annoying. Okay, but I have this other thing. I mean, they don't accept Visa. Maybe I'll use MasterCard instead. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. Let me try American Express. Oh, that doesn't work. Well, it's kind of inconvenient, but I guess I could boot up PayPal. Oh, that doesn't work. How are they going to sell you the game? Are you going to physically drive over to Valve and, like, but no, you can't do that. So naturally, these companies are throwing their weight around. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly. I'm not the biggest fan of a bunch of, like, explicit video games being on Steam, because I like compartmentalizing things. I don't know if compartmentalizing is the proper word. I like separating things. Let's put it like that. So when I go to Steam, I want to get, like, cool video games. I want to get cool games that I want to go and I want to play. I want to indulge myself in playing a video game. If I want to go and look at explicit material, there are other websites that I go to. The same way that, like, for instance, I have a kitchen in my house. I like cooking in the kitchen. You know what I don't want to see in the kitchen? A toilet. Because I don't want anybody dropping a deuce on the toilet that's next to my stove when I'm stir-frying some veggies. Not particularly pleasant for me. Now, having said that, does it bother me there's a bunch of explicit video games on Steam? No, I don't care. But I'm also not going to shed a tear for seeing them go away. On the other hand, I will say that it bothers me that these games are going away because Steam was pressured by a third entity that decided that they didn't want to see these games on Steam. Now, I know that there's this whole other aspect that we're going to get into, which is the activist group that supposedly caused this, which I don't know if they did or if they didn't. We'll get into all of that. But fundamentally, I highly doubt that those people played all, like, 500 games or however many were removed to really understand if this is relevant to the accusations that they're making. But the point that I'm making is, I would rather see Steam decide to curate their content than to allow some third party to do it for them. Because the reality is, and we all know that this is kind of like a slippery slope, right? So today, it's the explicit video games that are going away. Tomorrow, maybe they go like, that Baldur's Gate 3 game sure has some explicit content on there. I mean, you guys may not remember, but Karlak did do things to me in that game. She did. She did things to me, and I don't even regret it. All right? Karlak did things to me in Baldur's Gate 3. And it's like, these are things that maybe some people, they dive into Baldur's Gate 3 and they're like, oh, I'm actually not happy about it. Maybe some people jump into Stellar Blade and they're like, that outfit's a little bit too revealing. Or maybe they even just, change their, they might change their outlook. Like, for instance, we've recently been live streaming First Berserker Kazan. That is a game that features a lot of gore. A lot of violence, lots of blood spurting everywhere. Every time you kill a monster, just like blood splattering all over the screen. The character is constantly drenched in blood. You might be like, "Oh, that's maybe a little bit too violent. Maybe maybe that breaks the rules and standards set forth by Visa and Mastercard because they don't want to see, they don't want to see their brand associated with that kind of violence." This is very much a slippery slope, whether people like to believe it or not. So, despite the fact that, again, like I said, I'm not shedding a tear over these explicit games leaving the platform. I'm not a prude, okay? I'm not. But it's like I like separating things. I want my video games here, and I want my explicit material somewhere else. That's just me. I understand it for a lot of people. You guys might love these. So, therefore, the thing to me is I wanted it to be Steam that decides what they are curating on their store. I don't want some third party of out of touch boomers that have no idea what a freaking video game is. They probably think that, oh, video games? Those things from like the 3.5-inch floppy drives my son was doing back in the day? It's like, no, bro. That's not what we're talking about. I mean, I guess technically speaking, yes, those are the video games, but like, moved on since then. We're a little bit more sophisticated. And probably somebody who thinks that video games are in a. Actually, maybe 3.5 inches might be a little bit too much. Maybe they're still thinking about those 5-inch floppies back in the Amstrad days. Maybe that's what they're thinking, that, that we still have those. And it's like maybe a bunch of out of touch people shouldn't be dictating or deciding what is or isn't allowed in terms of video games. But that's just my opinion on that. The thing is, I'm not the only one who feels this way. Now, there's more people who have talked about this, and this is like the situation that has been a problem in Japan specifically, because there's more platforms that have run into trouble despite the fact that the content is legal in Japan, and these guys are basically trying to be the arbiters of morality or some such nonsense. I don't even know. Like, there's an article here where Yoko Taro himself, who is the man behind Nier Automata, where he talks about that this is a security hole that endangers democracy itself. The Nier creator speaks out against payment processors pressuring Japanese adult content platforms, which, by the way, a large majority of these games that were removed. As you guys can see, these are Japanese, or at least Japanese-inspired video games, right? So there's clearly like a very specific target when it comes to this. And there's also like a manga website that was shut down on account of the fact that it kind of just lost the payment processing services, and they were just like shut down. They had to shut down because they had no way of people like giving them money. Essentially, that's the way that it goes. Now, like I said, there is a group that is claiming that they are the ones responsible for this. There's a group called Collective Shout. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can use a lot of the words that they are using here because YouTube is already very much a censored type of thing with the algorithm and how everything works. So saying these words will get the video likely demonetized or whatever. But basically, they're saying this is a major win for women and girls following our successful campaign and 70,000 petition to get something simulation game pulled from gaming platform Steam. We discovered 500 other games depicting bad things. And this is the part where I was like, did you play these 500 games, or are these just like tags that people put on there? Regardless, it's not really something that you should do to begin with, but whatever. But did you play these games to actually test them out? Or is it just like, boom, done? It is done. It is what it is. I don't know, dude. I don't like the fact that a group like this are the ones who are pressuring Steam, potentially, if it even is because of them, because I don't actually know if they're the ones who caused Visa and MasterCard to, pressure Steam into removing this stuff, but I don't like them wielding all of this power if that is the case. I don't like the Collective Shout people wielding this much power. I don't like Visa and MasterCard wielding this much power. And this is simply because, like I said, slippery slope. We can see other games where they might be like, oh, I don't know about that one. No, that Baldur's Gate 3, that Stellar Blade, I don't know. It's a really messed up situation, and I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy about the way that this whole thing played out. Let's put it like that. I'm not shedding a tear over this type of stuff getting removed from Steam, but I wish it was because Steam was deciding to better curate the content that they have on the platform to begin with. Because at least there, we would know that these are people that actually know about video games. But I don't know. Where do you guys land on this? Let me know in the comment section down below. These are my thoughts on this. A lot of people have been asking me to talk about this, and it's a strange topic, and I don't like these payment processing companies throwing their weight around because it's never good. Never ends well. These companies do this. See. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.